Hi, welcome back. Today I'm going to do a paired book review of two migration stories, The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson and Hillbilly Elegy by J.D. Vance. Both of these nonfiction books describe experiences of migration within America of a people in search of a better life. These migrations are composed of individual choices, but together create a much larger pattern that we can see. The Warmth of Other Suns, which she subtitles The Epic Story of America's Great Migration, refers to the Great Migration of blacks from America's South to its west and north. This book follows three complex and well-developed characters, real people, through their experiences within this historical movement. We have George Starling, who grew up in Florida, was a unionizer in the Florida orange groves, and fled to New York to become a porter on the East Coast railway system. We have Ida Mae Gladney, a cotton picker from Mississippi, who moves with her husband to Chicago, and together they set up a better life, and they keep it pretty simple. The third character we have is Robert Joseph Pershing Foster, who is an aspiring well-to-do man from Louisiana who marries into a very prominent black family based in Atlanta and ultimately becomes a surgeon in California. In these three characters, we have a sense of the whole. They are full and deep personal histories, individual motivations, individual responses to the world. And then around these three stories, Isabel Wilkerson provides just enough researched context to demonstrate how there are variations across and beyond these three people. In a sense, this book is something of a memoir, because Isabel Wilkerson is a child of some of these migrants from the Great Migration. And her book follows, as best it can, the full history from roughly 1915 to 1975, and also seeks to understand some of its impact through the 1990s, when she was inspired to first pursue this project and beyond. Hillbilly Elegy is a current popular book around the white experience of rural Appalachians, Kentucky and Georgia and West Virginia, who move to big industrial cities around the same time as Wilkerson's Great Migration story. And Vance does allude to the similarities, although it remains a superficial allusion, and I'll get to that further. The book begins promisingly. J.D. Vance is a son of some of the Kentucky hillbilly migrants to Ohio, where and he grew up both in Ohio and Kentucky in a troubled childhood. The book begins by exploring his great-grandparents, his grandparents, and then eventually gets to his parents and ends with himself. However, after an opening where he attempts to integrate some academic research and other stories beyond his self, the book devolves into a self-indulgent extended college essay. For example, I just find that his book remains at the superficial level, and he idolizes and assumes, but he just doesn't fully investigate anything that he's saying in this book. For example, in some of the early chapters, he describes how these families of Appalachian hillbillies would be able to move to industrial cities through networks of family, because the industrial corporations would hire full families to move from, say, Kentucky to Ohio. So they relied on this network and this nepotism to get jobs, to keep jobs, and to support their family systems. And yet Vance seems mystified that this same kind of network is at play in Yale law, where who you know helps you get a job and helps you make the connections you need to make to get not just any job, but the right job for your career. Overall, I found Hillbilly Elegy to be a very disappointing book. It's at best anecdata, and that's a pejorative term to describe when you use one piece of a story to try to make claims beyond that story. And that's exactly what he's trying to do here. And most frustratingly, he doesn't explore at all why rural Appalachians in this wider, let's call it a diaspora, with this wider dispersion of family in industrial cities, why they seem to have taken a sense of entitlement and run with it to the point where in story after story, Vance describes how people from his hometown, men from his hometown, seem to relish that they don't have a job. So overall, I think you can tell which one of these stories I would recommend. Definitely Wilkerson. Not only is it better researched, it's a better story and better for her research. Whereas Vance's story is superficial and doesn't tell us anything new about the experiences at play. And at worst, it doesn't help us understand what we can do about the situation of those who are in the Rust Belt or rural Appalachia today. If you've read either of these books, please feel free to comment down below and tell me what I might have missed. I'll see you next time.